Have you ever caught yourself reacting to someone's words before you even realized what was happening? That flash of heat in your chest, the sudden rush of blood, the sharp words spilling out of your mouth before your mind could even catch them? And then, regret. If you've been there, you're not alone. Almost everyone has. And that's not an accident. That's programming. Conditioning. Installed into you since childhood. But before we get deep into this, do me a quick favor, hit the like button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I always find it powerful to see just how far these conversations travel. Now, let's go back to where this begins. From the moment you're born, you're trained to react. Society wires you like a puppet. Smile when you want to scream. Sit down when you want to rise up. Seek approval when your instincts beg you to stand tall. That programming runs so deep that most people live their entire lives as emotional slaves, dancing to the rhythm of someone else's tune. But here's what they never taught you. There's a world of difference between reacting and responding. And that difference is the line between living as a puppet on strings, or as the master of your own fate. Think about it. How many times has someone said something that triggered you, and without thinking, you snapped back? You defended yourself. You explained. You lashed out. And in that moment, you handed them the keys to your power. Niccolò Machiavelli, one of the sharpest minds in political philosophy, understood this centuries ago. He wrote, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." What he meant was simple: wisdom is in control. If your mind is undisciplined, your emotions will be your undoing. And here's the dangerous truth about today's world: outrage is currency. Emotional reactions are harvested like crops. The person who controls their state, the one who chooses to respond instead of react, holds an almost supernatural advantage. This isn't about becoming cold or robotic. It's about cultivating what I call strategic emotional intelligence. The ability to feel everything, yet be controlled by nothing. It's the discipline of transforming from someone who can be easily provoked into someone who answers with surgical precision. Because here's the law you need to tattoo into your mind: if you can be provoked, you can be controlled. Every outburst, every defensive rant, every emotional reaction is you broadcasting to the world, "These are my buttons. Push them whenever you want." But there's another way to live. It begins when you realize that your emotions are not commands, they're information. That every trigger is data. Every insult, every test, every attempt to get under your skin is a message about the other person's strategy, not a demand for your reaction. The great mistake is thinking emotional control equals weakness. It doesn't. It equals leverage. Look around, most people are emotional addicts. They need to express, to vent, to discharge instantly. But the strategist, the man or woman who can sit in silence, absorb the energy, and choose, that person becomes untouchable. This is where the transformation begins. Instead of reacting like a match, instant spark, quick burn, fast death, you become a fuse. Slow, steady, deliberate. Building pressure, storing energy, choosing your explosion with precision. And here's where the game gets fascinating: silence. Strategic silence. When someone is raging at you, begging for a reaction, and you give them nothing, their chaos collapses on itself. They reveal their hand, their insecurities, their entire strategy, all while you sit calm, gathering intelligence. You don't fight them. You let them fight themselves. That's not weakness, it's warfare at the highest level. Every time you refuse to react emotionally, you're building an invisible fortress around yourself. A wall of psychological armor. And with each layer, you step further out of the prison that society built for you and into sovereignty. Because let's be real, emotions are the oldest tools of manipulation. Guilt to make you comply. Fear to keep you small. Anger to keep you distracted. Hope to keep you dependent. Every empire, every religion, every government, every manipulator has always known this: if I can trigger your emotions, I own your decisions. But when you begin to see emotions for what they are, signals, not shackles, you unlock something close to freedom. Anger becomes fuel. Fear becomes foresight. Hurt becomes hidden drive. Instead of being swept away, you convert energy into strategy. That's emotional alchemy. And this alchemy gives birth to something terrifying in the eyes of manipulators: unpredictability. When people realize they can't read you, can't trigger you, can't make you dance to their tune, they grow uneasy. They begin projecting, unraveling, revealing themselves. You become the mirror, reflecting their energy back without revealing anything of your own. And that silence, that unreadable presence, it creates mystique. And mystique is leverage. Machiavelli understood, power isn't about noise, volume, or even aggression. It's about control of perception. And perception belongs to the one who does not flinch, does not rush, does not explain. That's why you must kill the habit of over-explaining and defending yourself. Every defense you give is a leak in your fortress. Every justification is a surrender of frame. Power doesn't explain. Power acts. And when questioned, power lets silence do the talking. Here's the paradox: society taught you that explaining builds trust. But in truth, over-explaining bleeds authority. People respect mystery more than they respect clarity. They fear uncertainty more than they fear confrontation. And when you can hold silence, strategically, deliberately, you shift from seeking approval to commanding presence. This transformation will cost you comfort. It will require patience. It will make others uncomfortable. But it will also make you dangerous in a way few people ever are. Because in the end, the person who reacts lives as a slave. The person who responds, who calculates, delays, mirrors, and chooses, lives as a master. So, let me ask you, are you ready to stop being the match and become the fuse? Write in the comments, I respond, I don't react. Because that declaration, if you live it, will be the first step toward emotional sovereignty, the kind of power no one can take from you. But here's the thing, emotional sovereignty is only the beginning. Once you stop reacting, once you train yourself to pause, to breathe, to watch, something powerful happens. You begin to see the game behind the game. You notice how most people's words aren't really their own. They're echoes. Scripts. Conditioned responses planted in them by family, society, media, culture. They speak, but it isn't really them, it's the programming. And once you see that, you stop taking things personally. You stop letting insults pierce you. You stop letting praise intoxicate you. Because both are chains. Praise hooks your ego. Insults hook your pride. Either way, you're controlled. But when you stand still in the storm, when you let both praise and insult pass through you without sticking, you reach a state philosophers called ataraxia, a deep, unshakable calm. Imagine that, living in a way where no word can enslave you, no insult can disturb you, no manipulation can bend you. You move through life like a mountain, immovable, unprovoked, untouchable. But here's the secret they'll never tell you: calm doesn't mean passive. Calm doesn't mean soft. Calm is the most dangerous weapon you can possess. Because when you're calm, you can see. You can calculate. You can strike when the time is right. And this is where most people get it wrong. They think controlling emotions means suppressing them. It doesn't. Suppression makes you rigid, brittle, breakable. Control makes you fluid, adaptable, lethal. Think of water. It bends, but it never breaks. It yields, but it carves mountains. It adapts to every container, but it cannot be destroyed. That's emotional mastery. To become like water, flowing, adapting, powerful. Now let me give you something practical, something you can use the next time life tests you. The rule of the pause. Before you respond, pause. Before you send that message, pause. Before you react to disrespect, pause. Even if it's just 3 seconds, that pause is your power. It interrupts the programming. It stops the automatic reaction. It creates space for strategy. Because in that space, you regain sovereignty. And in that sovereignty, you decide, not them. Most people will never pause. They'll live as slaves to impulse until their last breath. But you are here because something in you knows you're meant for more. You're not here to live as a puppet. You're here to master the strings. So when life comes for you, and it will, when someone tries to test you, bait you, provoke you, remember this, their power ends where your pause begins. And if you can hold the pause long enough, their chaos will consume them while you remain unshaken. That, right there, is the difference between men who live ordinary lives, and men who build empires. So I'll leave you with this, the next time someone tries to provoke you, don't give them your reaction. Give them your silence. Watch what happens. Here's where most people fail to understand the true power of emotional mastery. It's not just about self-control. That's only the beginning. The real mastery comes when you use your control over emotions as a weapon. Think about it, every time someone tries to provoke you, they're testing for weakness. They're probing for your triggers, your buttons. They want to see how you react, because your reaction tells them everything about you. But what if you didn't give them a reaction at all? Imagine this, someone is yelling, trying to intimidate you. Most people would argue, justify, or lash out. They give away energy, reveal their weaknesses, and hand over power. But you stay calm. You observe. You listen. You let them exhaust themselves. And when they finally stop, when their chaos runs out of fuel, you respond. Not with emotion. Not with defense. But with precision. With strategy. This is the law of calculated response. It works in every arena, the boardroom, your relationships, social situations, even family gatherings. People will underestimate you because they assume calm equals weakness. That's their first mistake. Your silence, your measured responses, your refusal to react immediately, these create a psychological vacuum. Humans are uncomfortable with unpredictability. They crave certainty. They want to know how you'll behave, what you'll feel, and how you'll respond. When you deny them that, something incredible happens. They begin projecting their assumptions onto you. They overthink, they panic, they miscalculate. And you watch, you learn, you prepare your move. Now let's talk about strategic mirroring, a tool most people never even notice. When someone projects anger, arrogance, or tension at you, subtly mirror their energy. Not mockingly. Not aggressively. But just enough to hold a reflective surface to their own behavior. Here's the effect, they see themselves in their own chaos. Their own aggression bounces back at them. And they begin losing confidence in their own control, all while you remain completely unshaken. This isn't manipulation in a petty sense. It's psychological leverage. It's subtle dominance without a single overt threat. The moment someone realizes you cannot be provoked, they start playing your game, not theirs. And this is where timing becomes everything. The controlled pause, the silence, the mirroring, it's all preparation. You're gathering data while others are bleeding information. And when the moment is right, your action lands with surgical precision. It's devastating not because it's violent, but because it's inevitable. Let me give you a metaphor, most people are matches. Bright flashes, short-lived energy, burning themselves out in reactions that mean nothing. You're a fuse. Slow, deliberate, controlled. You gather potential energy quietly, invisibly, until you ignite at the exact right moment, and the impact is overwhelming. Combine the pause, the mirroring, and strategic timing, and you begin to operate on a level that most people will never even see coming. Conversations, negotiations, conflicts, none of it can touch you. Not because you're stronger or louder, but because you're smarter. This is the evolution of emotional mastery into psychological dominance. And here's the final truth: the person who masters this art doesn't need to shout. Doesn't need to fight. Doesn't need to prove anything. Power comes quietly, invisibly, irresistibly. And once you operate from this level, life itself bends subtly to your influence. So here's your next step: start practicing this today. Pause before responding. Study others' energy. Mirror subtly. Observe. Collect information. And wait for the perfect moment. Every encounter becomes a classroom. Every provocation becomes data. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to sharpen your mastery. Comment below: I move like a fuse if you're ready to step into this level of calculated, unstoppable emotional power. Because remember, most people live as matches. They burn quickly. They react impulsively. They hand away their power with every emotional outburst. But you're learning to be the fuse, to build energy, to strike at the perfect moment, and that's where true mastery lies. Here's the hidden truth most people never grasp: control isn't about being louder, faster, or more aggressive, it's about controlling the lens through which others perceive reality. Most people live under other people's frames. They let society, peers, and authority dictate how they see themselves and the world. They respond to the expectations and provocations of others without question. That's predictability, and predictability is weakness. The true master, however, establishes their own frame. They dictate the terms, the rhythm, and the perspective of every interaction. Imagine entering a room where tension is high, opinions clash, and everyone is desperate to assert dominance. Most people instantly adapt, they react to the energy that exists. But a master? They bring their own energy, their own gravity, and suddenly, the room bends subtly to their rhythm. People start unconsciously following their lead. They interpret events through the frame the master sets, often without realizing it. This is frame domination, the ability to shape perception itself. Not through shouting, arguing, or manipulating facts, but by controlling the context in which others interpret everything. It works like this. Silence becomes leverage. Every word you choose not to say forces others to fill the vacuum with their assumptions. Attention becomes currency. By withholding reactions, responses, or availability, you create scarcity, and scarcity increases perceived value. People begin chasing your attention, not the other way around. Predictability becomes vulnerability. When others can't predict your response, they lose control. Your unpredictability becomes a subtle weapon of influence. Combine these three principles, and you enter a state of almost untouchable influence. People may not be able to articulate why they feel unsettled around you, but they will defer, respect, and unconsciously align with your presence and perspective. Let's take it further: strategic absence. Being constantly available is a silent form of weakness. It conditions others to expect your attention, to take your presence for granted. But when you vanish strategically, when you withhold responses, step back from interactions, and make your presence felt only selectively, you create an intense psychological pull. People start thinking about you in your absence. They start overvaluing every interaction because it's rare, controlled, and deliberate. This is the economics of attention applied to human psychology. Scarcity breeds desire. Overexposure breeds contempt. Most people operate in abundance mode, they give everything away and are taken for granted. Masters operate in scarcity mode, they guard their presence, their reactions, and their emotional energy like precious assets. And here's the apex of this discipline: the untouchable mind. When you combine emotional sovereignty, strategic silence, mirroring, timing, withholding, and frame control, you reach a state where you are fundamentally unshakable. No provocation rattles you. No manipulation breaks your composure. People may try to push, provoke, or influence you, but you remain an unmovable center. You've built a psychological fortress. From this position, power is effortless. Influence is natural. Respect is automatic. You don't need to demand it, it flows to you because you control the environment, the perception, and your own internal state simultaneously. Here's the final insight: true mastery isn't visible, it's invisible. The person who operates at this level doesn't need to announce their strength. They don't have to show dominance. They move quietly, deliberately, strategically. Others feel their influence without ever seeing the mechanics behind it. And that's the essence of Machiavellian wisdom applied to modern life: control the mind first, control perception second, and control reality third. Comment below: I am untouchable if you're ready to begin building this level of psychological and emotional mastery in your own life. 1. Pause before you react. Every interaction, provocation, or challenge is an opportunity to practice control. The first and simplest habit to build is a pause. The next time someone insults, pressures, or triggers you, take a single deep breath. Count to 3 before responding. Use that pause to analyze the situation instead of feeding your emotions. Ask yourself, what is this person trying to achieve? What advantage would I gain by responding or staying silent? This tiny habit begins rewiring your brain to respond strategically, not react impulsively. Over time, it becomes second nature. 2. Mirror strategically. Mirroring is subtle, but incredibly powerful. Match energy, tone, or body language in small doses. Don't copy, reflect. Let the other person see themselves in your calm, composed posture. This forces them to confront their own behavior while you remain neutral. When done correctly, this creates psychological tension that gives you the upper hand in any conversation or negotiation. 3. Master the art of withholding. Strategic withholding is one of the most misunderstood forms of power. Don't respond immediately to texts, emails, or requests. Don't explain or justify yourself unnecessarily. Let people wonder. Be intentionally scarce with your attention and reactions. By creating controlled absence, you amplify your perceived value. People will begin chasing your attention rather than taking it for granted. 4. Control the frame. Every interaction occurs within a psychological frame, a lens through which people interpret reality. Most people accept the frame set by others. Masters set their own frame. Start small, in conversations, subtly guide topics toward areas where you have control. In conflicts, stay calm and composed. Your calmness becomes the frame everyone else reacts to. Over time, this extends to negotiations, group dynamics, and even relationships. People begin unconsciously adopting your perspective because it feels stable, confident, and commanding. 5. Turn emotion into advantage. Every feeling, anger, fear, frustration, excitement, is data. Learn to read it. Ask, what is this emotion telling me? How can it guide my next move? Instead of expressing raw emotions, channel them into calculated action. Transform provocation into insight, fear into alertness, and anger into precision. This is the emotional alchemy that turns what others see as weakness into strategic power. 6. Build the untouchable mind. The final level of mastery is cultivating a state where you cannot be provoked or manipulated. Combine pause, mirroring, withholding, frame control, and emotional alchemy. Observe, analyze, and calculate before acting. The result: you become an invisible force. People feel your influence without understanding why. At this stage, power flows naturally. You don't have to demand respect, it is automatically given because your presence, your decisions, and your composure signal authority at a